Hey you guys, today I'm fan casting for the X-Men in the MCU. I've always been a huge fan of the X-Men and I feel like we're going to get them in the MCU pretty soon. I'm going to be casting some of the older X-Men characters and a few villains, so let's get into it. We're going to start with the founder of the X-Men, Professor Xavier. In my opinion, the last few X-Men movies focus too much on characters like Xavier, Magneto, and Mystique instead of the actual X-Men team. I would also want Xavier to be important in the first movie, and then in the second movie, he could hand over control to someone like Scott Summers' Cyclops. Therefore, I want Professor Xavier to be casted a little bit older. An actor that I considered but wouldn't be my ultimate choice is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Honestly, I think he's too young, but I have heard a rumor that Marvel was considering him, so I thought I'd mention him. He's also been mentioned to maybe play Mr. Fantastic, so that might be a better fit. If Marvel wanted to have a young Professor X, I think that they should just bring back James McAvoy. He did a really great job, and he grew into that role over the course of the movies, and I would be extremely happy if they just brought him back. Another possibility is Giancarlo Esposito from The Boys and Breaking Bad. He's not my top choice because I think that there would be a better role for him in the MCU, and I think that he would be perfect for Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin from Spider-Man. I think that he just would look so good for it. I know that he's also met with Marvel, and he wants to join the MCU, so I wouldn't be surprised if they put him in as Professor X, but he's Norman Osborn for me. These last two picks were very close for me because they would both be phenomenal choices. Mark Strong was my frontrunner for a very long time because he looks exactly like Professor Xavier. He also gives off a Sir Patrick Stewart vibe that I think fits well with Professor Xavier. He is the traditional Professor Xavier pick, but I have heard some people say that he would be the obvious choice, so maybe we could do something different, which is what my next option would be. Still, my top choice for Professor Xavier in the MCU is Lance Reddick from the John Wick movies. As I said in my last video, I think that Marvel is going to be doing a diversity push, and Professor Xavier will be easy to race bin because race doesn't have anything to do with his character. In the John Wick movies, Reddick had a very commanding presence and a killer voice. He's 58 years old, he's 6'2", and he'll be in a wheelchair, so the height thing isn't really as important. He's also a really good, solid actor. Anyway, my top choice for Professor Xavier in the MCU is Lance Reddick. Next up is the second half of our favorite old friends, Magneto, Eric Lyncher himself. The first actor I'm going to start with is my least favorite on the list because he's younger than what I would want. And his name is Matthias Schweighöfer from the new Army of the Dead movie on Netflix. He's a German actor. He's 40 years old. He's 5'10". He looks very young though. He plays a more comedic role in Army of the Dead, but he is still very charming. I personally want Magneto to be a little bit older, but he does have a wonderful look for it. Apparently, he was also so good in Army of the Dead that he's getting a prequel about him, so that bodes very well for him and his acting chops. Also, if Marvel wanted to get someone more unknown, he would be a good option for that. Next, I have Michael Fassbender, who played Magneto in the Fox movies. He did such an amazing job that I would be so happy if they just brought him back. In fact, I say bring him and McAvoy back for these roles. He was brilliant. But I think Marvel is going to recast, so my top choice for Magneto in the MCU is Viggo Mortensen. Viggo is 62 and 5'11". I mean, look at these pictures of him. He looks exactly like Magneto in the comics. They have the same face. You may know him from the Lord of the Rings movies and Green Book, co-starring R. Blade, Mahershala Ali, I have a pitch idea for Magneto and Xavier in the MCU. I'm thinking a Disney Plus show where it shows their backstories, so when we get to the movies, we can focus on the actual X-Men team. I also really want him to be Scarlet Witch's father in the MCU, and Vigo's age and physical appearance would be perfect for that. I had a hard time finding other actors because once I found Vigo, I was like, he's perfect for the character. Again, I'm choosing Viggo Mortensen for Magneto in the MCU air clincher. Now we are moving on to Moira MacTaggert, or Moira X. After the recent comic book run of the X-Men, Moira was upgraded to a major character. This is something I expect the movies to incorporate in some way. Her and Xavier also have a bit of a romance sometimes, so my casting adjusted to that. Let's start with Kate Mara from Fantastic. That movie was not good at all, but that wasn't her fault. There were good parts in it. She's my least favorite pick, but I could see it, especially at 38. She can be believable against my Xavier pick, who's 58, just Lance Reddick. That's a 20-year age difference, but so is Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, so I don't think it'll be a big deal. Next, we have Isla Fisher, who is 45, so she's more age appropriate, and she's also the oldest Moira pick on my list. She also has Scottish heritage, which fits with the character, and I recently saw her in this movie called Godmothered on Disney Plus, and I enjoyed her performance. Okay, so now we're going to get into my top 2 choices for Moira. First, we have Rose Leslie from Game of Thrones. She's also Scottish and 34 years old. She would have also been a great choice for older Jean. She just looks like it. She's married to Kit Harington, who's going to be Black Knight in the Eternals movie that's coming out later on this year, so that's a good end for her. Okay, so now we're at my final choice for Moira MacTaggert. Stay with me here. She's an actress from one of my favorite shows, but she isn't widely known. I'd pick Adelaide Kane from Reign. Adelaide has Scottish blood in her, and she played Mary, Queen of Scots on TV. I've always been a huge fan of her, and I want her to get more work. She's 30, so that is young to be against 58-year-old Lance Reddick, but he does look younger. Even though I would want the characters to have a romantic backstory, it doesn't have to be there, even though I think they would look good together. Let me know what you think about that pick down in the comments below. Am I a little crazy? Let me know. I mean, come on, she even wears the cute little hats that Moira wears. She would be great for Moira X. Again, Adelaide Kane from Reign as Moira MacTaggert in the MCU. Now let's move into some of the more important X-Men villains. We shall start with Mr. Sinister. I think Sinister would be a good first villain for the X-Men, or an underlying villain that they build up to. In my pitch, I'm thinking the human could be working for Mr. Sinister. What do you guys think about that? Anyway, an option that I have first up is Mr. Jason Isaacs. He was also an option for Magneto, but I think he'd be better here. He has the intensity that you need for this character. And after Mr. Isaacs, I would say Luke Evans. He has been fan casted for a lot of different roles in the MCU. He's on my list for Kraven the Hunter, especially from Spider-Man. Some people see him as Namor, but I say, what about Sinister? He was Gaston in Beauty and the Beast, and those characters have the same energy, right? Okay, my final choice for Mr. Sinister in the MCU is Tom Ellis, Lucifer himself. As soon as I saw the way Jonathan Hickman wrote Mr. Sinister in the new X-Men comics, I immediately thought of Tom Ellis. He's practically already playing Sinister because of his role as Lucifer. Lucifer is going to end, and he will have an availability soon. He is perfect casting in my opinion, him and Lucifer have the same energy about them and same way of acting, and his charm and wit would bring so much to the character. Who would you guys pick? But yeah, I choose Tom Ellis as MCU Mr. Sinister. Okay, now let's get into Apocalypse. I want to say something controversial. I love X-Men Apocalypse. If I had to choose an X-Men movie to watch, it's my third. Fourth is for counting Logan. One of the problems that I had with the Apocalypse character in that movie was the look and the height. My first actor would help with that. His name is Kobe Bell from the show The Gifted. He is 45 and 6'3", so his height would definitely fix that problem because he is taller than Oscar Isaac. Plus, they can make him look even larger with CGI. If you watch The Gifted, then you know that he's a great actor and he obviously has X-Men experience. My second choice would be Ferran Haroun Tahir. You may recognize him from the first Iron Man movie. I don't think that would be an issue because he would be under a lot of makeup and it would be a very different character. He is 5'10", so that might not help with the height thing, but CGI can enhance that. He is very intense in that movie and he has such a striking face that you would still be able to recognize him under all that makeup. He was my definitive pick, but looking at Kobe Bell again, it's making me a bit torn. So let me know which one of these two men you would choose. Last X-Men villain we're going to be doing today is Namor the Submariner. Namor was difficult to try to place because he is a mutant, which makes him connected to the X-Men, but he's also a Black Panther villain, and he's also tangled with the Fantastic Four. He's not even really an X-Men villain. He's helped them, especially in the X-Men Red comics, but he's not really in the comics right now. Namor has been depicted as racially ambiguous in the comics. I see an Asian man, but it is up to debate. Anyway, my first option is Brian T. He's a popular pick, so I thought I'd mention him. He was in the Wolverine movie, so there is an X-Men connection right there. Next we have Daniel Henney. He was also in the Wolverine movie. X-Men Origin Wolverine to be exact. This pick is mostly based off looks. I mean, come on, he looks just like Namor does in the comics, but I wouldn't go with them. Now we're going to move on to my final two picks. Henry Golding from Crazy Rich Asians. He was so charismatic in that movie and we all fell in love with him. I really like him and I think that he'd be a really good pick. Okay, so my final pick may be a bit controversial. Like I said, Namor is racially ambiguous. And I heard a rumor a while ago that Marvel may be interested in race bending the character to be black. I wanted him to be Asian, but once the rumors came out about this actor maybe being in Black Panther 2, I thought he should be Namor. The actor is Regina Page from Bridgerton fame. The Duke in that show was a jerk at times, and so is Namor. Once this idea came to my mind, I couldn't unsee it. This would be such good casting, and the only excuse I would give him for leaving Bridgerton. So yeah, I choose Regina Page as Namor in the MCU. This video was so fun to make. I love all these characters and have storylines in my mind for all of them. This is connected to my previous X-Men fan casting video. I'm planning on making more in the future, so look out for that. A final recap of my X-Men characters are as follows. Lance Reddick as Professor Charles Xavier. Viggo Mortensen as Eric Lyncher Magneto. Adelaide Kane as Moira MacTaggert. Tom Ellis as Mr. Sinister Nathaniel Essex. Ferran Haroun Tahir as Apocalypse. And Regina Page as Namor the Submariner. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video with your fellow Marvel fans. Check out my previous X-Men fan casting video if you're interested. This is the one where I did the original 5 X-Men. You can find me at Xmen_edits on Instagram if you want to see some of these pictures. I want to start doing movie reactions, and if you guys have any tips on how to record those, then I would be extremely grateful. And comment your own castings for these characters and any pitches you may have for bringing them into the MCU down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in my next fan casting video. Bye!